Hey, Hank Squad, welcome back. It's Sharon and Lauren again. How you doing, Lauren?
I am great, Sharon. How are you?
I am pretty good today. Can't complain. It's another beautiful day in paradise.
Beautiful day. Looking out the window, seeing all of the birds diving into the water trying to get fish.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I'd like to know, I might have to Google it later. I'm curious about the amount of times they have to dive to actually get a fish. Like what the odds are.
Get back to us on that.
I will.
Do your
That'll
research.
I'll check the information. I'll let you know that on the next episode.
Oh, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That would be wonderful. And today we have a guest with us. Hello, Christina. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well. Christina Ordonez. Did I do all right?
Yeah, you did great.
Ordonez.
That's even better. Okay, now you tell us how to say your last name.
Christina Ordonez.
See, I just cannot roll my R's, but you both did it beautifully.
We're going to teach you how to roll your R's.
Would you please?
So you can try it on the next episode.
Okay, I'll practice. Fair enough? Okay, great. So Christina left a high-powered job to heal her chronic migraine and stress. Now she helps others do the same with a combination of yoga, executive coaching, and science-backed presence practices. So tell us a little bit about that, Christina. Tell me about your chronic migraine. I actually have a sister-in-law who really suffers from chronic migraines, and she has Botox shots quite regularly. Did you go through all that too?
Oh, yeah. I still get the Botox shots.
Oh, you do?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I had migraines when I was a kid. I started moving into chronic migraine in my young 20s, ironically, right around when I started working. And I found the higher I climbed, the sicker I became. So I was climbing up. I worked at a large consulting firm. And so I was climbing the ladders to senior associate, manager, director. And by the time I was director, I was having migraines about 4 months at a time, no day off. And it was just debilitating. And so it was my body, looking back, it was my body saying something's wrong. You've got to change. And after so many years of trying to figure it out within the system of consulting, I decided to step away. At that time, it was one of the hardest decisions I made. When I started in this group, we were about 150 people nationally, maybe like 100 million in revenue. And over the 11 years I was with them, we grew to 2 billion in revenue and over 1,000 employees. So I really felt like I was part of the ownership of developing this whole practice within this consulting firm. And had so many beautiful relationships with people. So it was hard to step away from the only thing I knew and the thing that I knew I was really successful at. But at the time, I'd done coaching for about a year and knew this just wasn't going to work anymore. And it was time for me to step away and actually start to heal my body in a real way.
What makes it a migraine as opposed to a headache? Like, is a migraine just a really, really bad headache? Is it how often you get it? Like, what's the difference?
So a migraine is actually a neurological and vascular disease. So we both have sensitive neurons and we have sensitive, like our blood vessels swell, and that will cause pain. You can have aura migraines. A lot of my migraines are more full body. So like my whole body shuts down. It's not just my head. And then, I would say a traditional headache is more like you can take an over-the-counter medicine, it feels better. It could be maybe a tension, something from the neck.
Okay.
A migraine is something that, it often has a lead-up period, a peak, and then a post. I call it my migraine hangover. So it's more neurological and vascular in nature that keeps you in pain longer, and it's a kind of full-body pain. For me, at least, everyone has their different ways.
Yeah, I would get what I now know is called an ocular migraine, which I probably get 2 to 3 times a year, and I get little squiggles in my vision. And like I would have to, if I was driving, I would have to pull over. If I was looking at a computer, I can't see. So yes, debilitating. I can't imagine having the pain. Anyone I've ever known who suffers pain from migraine has made it abundantly clear that you cannot do anything at all
And I worked a 12-hour a day, 14-hour a day job.
So what did you do? Were you taking medicine back then? Were you like,
it's like a catch-22, because if you take too much medicine, it triggers the migraines, because they're called rebound headaches. So you have to be really careful about what you're taking when. I mean, often I would just live in pain. So it would have to be like really bad for me to say, okay, I'm going to take medicine today. I can't concentrate anymore. But most of the time it was just like, well, it's another day. I can't tell them I'm sick again and I need to show up. And you just kind of go and do it. And then you get home and you crash.
And then since I cannot imagine having to make the decision to leave when you've worked your way up and, you're now a director, was there any moment or, right after you left, like a week, a month, where you had concerns that maybe you did the wrong thing, that maybe you were going to leave that job and still continue to have the migraines?
No, actually, one of the things I'm most proud of, and I think it was because I worked with an executive coach, I was very clear in my decision. And once I made the decision, I never looked back. It was, for a lot of my life, I only made decisions in my mind and I kept it very logical. And one of the things I do now and that my coach taught me back then was, okay, your heart has a say in things, your body has a say in things, your intuition has a say in things. So it's called the 4-way check. And you ask each part, what's the decision that you want to make? And then from that, you can get kind of a broader understanding. For me, my body was very clear. Like, you need to stop. This is done. We can't do this anymore. And so once that became very clear to me, it was like, okay, I need to find a new way. I did think when I left that I was going to take like a summer sabbatical and go right back to work. And that didn't happen. I ended up taking 2 years off. And I think one thing that surprised me about my stress, and I know others that have done this as well, is that we think a couple months off will heal everything. It probably took me 1.5 years before I really started to feel good again. And I'm 5 years since I left my job, and I can finally get to a place where I'm like, my migraines are 100% under control. So the body takes time to heal, and you've got to give it that time. At first I was a little frustrated. I was like, oh, it's been 6 months. Why can I still not want to work? Why do I still not want to go do things? And a mentor of mine said, well, you wound yourself up for 30 years and you think it's going to take 6 months to just wind yourself down. And I was like, oh, okay, good point.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I'm very intrigued by this coaching, because how fabulous would that be? I mean, think about it, Sharon, if we could make decisions in our life without doubt. I mean, there are some things that I don't doubt, but there are a lot of things that I do in my life, or decisions I make, where I have lots of moments of doubt and being unsure. So I love the fact that you said you had zero doubt.
Well, I want to go back to what Christina just said about the 4-way chat. Can you? So how did that check? You called it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So how did the 4-way check help you make your final decision and help you?
My brain wanted to stay, but every other part of me said it was time to leave. And
what are the 4 areas that you check in with?
So what you do is you'll take like a couple deep breaths.
Okay.
And then you'll have whatever decision in mind. So in this case, it was, do I stay or do I leave my job? And then it says, what is your heart telling you?
Okay.
And you answer. What is your head telling you? You answer. What is your body telling you? And then what is your intuition telling you? And so you can then get this kind of source of multiple perspectives, just even within yourself, of what does that decision look like. You can also say, what would my heart tell my head? What would my gut tell my heart? So you can kind of play around with these 4 areas, but it's this idea of getting into holographic thinking. We all default to one area of strength of thinking. So for me, I'm really logical. So I default to thinking in my head. Some people are really emotional. They default to thinking in their heart. Some people are more intuitive. So we all have that one area we're really good at. By doing a 4-way check, it helps you to bring in other perspectives that you don't always consider. You kind of default to what you know. And that can help you to broaden your perspective pretty easily.
I like that. I've never heard of that concept before. Have you?
No, body, heart, brain, and intuition.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I immediately, as you were saying that, thought about myself. I overanalyze and am logical, and so I definitely am a brain person.
I'm an intuition person. I think.
I was going to say I was thinking though that you could be also a heart person or a body. I feel like you listen to your body too.
I do, but I definitely have it. I'm really drawn to energy, and so I think because of that, I'm intuitive in a lot of ways.
So we both agree that you're not using your brain.
I'm not using my brain at all. I am not.
That's
See, we both agree on that.
So not true.
Oh,
but definitely when I'm making a decision,
very funny.
I'm more into what feels right, not necessarily what would make sense on paper.
Yeah, I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
That kind of how
I love that. I love that about you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's how we balance each other well, because you've got the brains and I've got the body.
Let's not even pretend that you don't have lots and lots of abundance of brains.
And you have a pretty good body too. So
thanks, Sharon.
You're welcome. Well, one thing I noticed too on your Instagram page was you do something called the Daily Reset. Mm-hmm. Do you think we could do one together?
Yeah,
and
of
maybe
course we can.
A brief one, and our listeners can see what that's all about?
Yeah, so I started the Daily Reset. I do it about once a week, and it's this idea that I work with largely high-powered corporate professionals, and they are running from meeting to meeting. They don't have 20 minutes to meditate. So I love this idea of 90 seconds. And what I talk about is that stress, if you think about stress like a dial, you're not in 90 seconds going to turn your stress from a 9 to a 0, but you can turn it from a 9 to a 7. So it's just this idea of starting to get comfortable with the fact that in 90 seconds or less, you can start to soften your body and soften your stress levels. And everyone has 90 seconds. I mean, in between a meeting, you can do it in the bathroom. You can do it while you're grabbing your water. My favorite, so stress lives in the body. It can be created by the brain, but it lives in the body. And the two most effective ways to release stress through the body is movement and breath. So I love to do my daily resets as a breath body movement. So if you'd like to do it right now,
let's do it.
Place both feet firmly planted on the ground. Give yourself a moment to kind of swirl around, feel into your body, and then feel the sits bones press against the chair. Gently pull the belly in as you lift your chest. Soften the shoulders down, relax through the neck, release the jaw. Soften the eyes, either closing them or finding a gazing point. And we'll start with a big inhale through the nose. Inhale. And then open mouth, exhale. Let your hands come to the tops of your knees. On the inhale, press your chest forward, puffing through the chest as you breathe in. And then on the exhale, pull the belly in, round and curl. Mid-back will begin to stretch as your chin comes to your chest. Inhale, lift the chest up to sky, arch through the back. And then exhale, round and curl. One more, inhale. And exhale. Begin to bring your palms to heart center. Just give yourself a moment to notice what's shifted in just a few seconds. And then we come back to life.
I feel very calm.
Oh.
Well, what I really liked about it is maybe it's because I'm so intent on following your words and doing what you're telling me to do that I actually, for those 90 seconds, thought about nothing other than doing what you were telling me to do. I wasn't thinking about, my shopping list or what I'm wearing tomorrow, so that's a huge positive.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
So that was a brief look at what Christina does for corporate people, right?
Yeah.
For all of us, really.
Well, to me, and we could discuss this topic on every episode we do, and we're not going to go into it in depth in here, but I think beyond just corporate people, it would be so amazing for anyone perimenopausal or menopausal, because we have so many problems silencing all of those thoughts that are racing in our mind, rushing in and out. And like I said, for 90 seconds of listening to you, I didn't think about anything other than just breathing or straightening my back or where to put my hands.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's high compliment. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And you also teach yoga, correct?
I do teach yoga, yeah.
I've been to her classes, Sharon.
Well, I know. And once again, somebody walked into a room and immediately knew you. You get around. I'm just saying, you get around.
I do get around. I do have a plate
around.
in my house, Sharon, that says retired slut. Just kidding, honey. Just kidding.
Yeah, listeners, I can't tell you how many places we go. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to introduce you to a new guest that I booked on the show. And they walk in and they're like, Lauren.
This is literally a no-brainer. The Yoga Shack in downtown Sarasota is literally across from our townhome. Like there can be a 9 a.m. class and I can walk out the door at 8:56 and make the class. It's just, It's great.
That is great. So how did you get into yoga?
I actually got into yoga through migraines. So when I was having when I first had my multi-month migraine, we decided to go into an extreme treatment. It's called DHE. And you end up in the hospital for a week. It's not serious in the sense of there's no surgeries or anything like that, but the drug that they administer is a vasoconstrictor, and so they have to monitor your heart. And so I was there for a week, and the main doctor that oversees that said, hey, Christina, I think yoga would be a really good thing for you. Just knowing the stress I was under with work and some of my background, she recommended yoga. And so that's when I started taking it. I kind of say it was my flirting stage. I dabbled in it in and out. And then when we moved to Sarasota, I started doing yoga at the Shack and really discovered I'd already been a big movement person, but I lift weights because it's good for you. I don't lift weights because I enjoy the process of lifting weights. And
I love the honesty with that because you're not going to love everything.
It's good for you. I feel so good after I do it. But in the moment, like my head's just like, is this over yet? Is this over yet? So yoga was for me a movement where I actually enjoyed doing it. Like in the moment was I not only not in my head, but I enjoyed the feelings in my body. And so for me, that was just this moment of like, wow, I can, because I had 24/7 work thoughts. So to even have 5 minutes of not thinking about work was like a, oh my gosh moment. And then to actually enjoy the movement I was doing was everything. And yoga was probably the first time in my life since being a kid that I understood what presence meant. I did not have it in Shavasana. Shavasana was not a presence moment for me for a very long time. But, in the middle of power, that's why I love power yoga. I would be able to actually feel my body and be in the moment. And so that's what attracted me to yoga. And I decided to do my teacher training purely on wanting to get to understand it better. I was just curious about the practice, something that I liked so much. When I went through teacher training, I realized that a lot of parts of it I liked. I like public speaking. I like creating playlists. I love yoga. And so it was just a natural next step for me to become a teacher. And I'm so
How many hours did all of that take? Is that what it is? You need a certain amount of hours?
It's a 200 hour. So I did my 200 hour. Eventually I'll do my 300 to get the 500, but I'm in no rush.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure is it 200 hours of being trained, or then do you actually have to have certain hours of teaching people?
So it's 200 hours of training. Within that, we taught 3 classes.
Oh, okay.
So you do actually have to teach, and then based on that you have to exemplify a certain level of, skill in that teaching to pass. I mean, most people do. And then obviously, the Shack, the caliber there is quite high. So, I did quite a bit of practice before I even auditioned for the Shack. And then I joke with the regulars for about the first year I taught at the Shack every single time, pit in my stomach. Like I was like, maybe I should just turn around and not do this because it was scary. It's probably the first time in my life I did something that wasn't on top of something else. My whole life was going towards business. And so I was, really good at school. And then I became, and then I went to college and I did my business degree and then I went into business. So everything was a stepping stone. Yoga was just like, net new. Here's a brand new thing you're going to do. And it really taught me a lot about how much we can reinvent ourselves at any point in our lives, and that, practice, there's no way out but through. Practice and just keep showing up.
So is that the advice? So I'm kind of new to yoga. I've worked out my whole life. And at first was like, yoga, I don't get a sweat on or whatever, right? Like I'd like to lift weights. So what advice would you give somebody that's just starting in yoga? Like, what's the best way to do it? I find it intimidating. So
it is intimidating.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. I mean, I would say, first of all, if you don't like it, don't do it. I'm a big proponent of enjoying the movement that you do. With the exception of lifting weights, everyone should lift weights. It's really good for you.
But yoga's really good for you too. You need to
is.
stretch, especially as you age. So.
Yeah, no, perfect.
I actually like that though, because it is important to enjoy it.
Yeah, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to keep doing it. So like, I always encourage my clients who are trying to start working out. I say, first of all, what can you do for 10 minutes, 15 minutes? And then secondly, let it be something you actually enjoy. And then with yoga, what I would say is being kind to yourself. Like, what is yoga? It's not the power vinyasa that we do in class. It's just breathing. What we did together in that daily reset, that's yoga. That's breath with movement. And that's really all yoga is. And as I went into yoga teacher training, I really learned that yoga is so much more beyond the physical practice. It's a whole philosophy, methodology of living. It's kind of a way you can live your life. And that's the part that I connect with more today than I even do the physical practice.
I am curious and do have to ask because you are married. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious with you talking about, going through your migraines and leaving your career job and entering into yoga and reinventing yourself, what role your, partner in life played in all of this?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I left my job, and about a month later, my husband checked himself into rehab. So we were, this was a very low point of my life. It was a low point of his life. And he was gone for 45 days or so. And I had started the yoga teacher training, and we kind of parallel pathed our lives for a little bit. I call it about 6 months. But anyone that's familiar with Alcoholics Anonymous in the program knows that it is a very spiritual program as well. So we both had kind of a parallel, I call it spiritual awakening. And we were so lucky to have it together, but not influencing each other. Like we were very much going through our own experience and finding it on our own. And then it was one of the things that ultimately brought us back together in our relationship. And has made it really strong. I'm
not a marriage expert, but I can't imagine that if one of you was having to influence the other, you would, still be married or have the marriage you do today. Like, how amazing is that, though, at the same time, you both go through something on the spiritual side.
Yeah,
and
very pivotal in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
That's literally life-changing.
Yeah, it was crazy. And we talk about it all the time, how lucky we are that it happened at that time, because I agree with you. It was a totally different way of living life, and I don't know how it would have worked without both of us.
How long ago was that, Christina?
That was 5 years ago.
And he's been clean and sober since?
Yeah.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah.
Don't you also look at that like it's just, if you can get through that, then it sort of, prepares you for any other thing you might face in life. Because let's be honest, life, we can't predict what's going to happen, and it can be so wonderful and cruel at the same time. But, I think if you go through something with your spouse that's really difficult, it's, the silver lining is that it certainly makes you realize, wow, if we can get through this, then look how strong we are.
Well, I would imagine it makes you stronger, but it's also still one day at a time, right? You just never know. So,
his sobriety was actually really important for me too, in my personal transformation, because exactly what you said, one day at a time. I really, as a planner and an overanalyzer in my mind, I had to stop thinking about things in the future and start saying, okay, it was good today.
You have to be present, right? That's
really,
all about presence.
Mm-hmm, it really makes you focus on one day at a time. What's What can we do today?
Right.
Today was a good day. Okay, now we move on to tomorrow. No thinking about what's going to happen in 6 months or what's going to happen in a year. And
It's such a valuable lesson, and it's a hard one for people to learn.
it is.
So,
Although it helps if you're reminded of it, because my older sister was very helpful. She was married first, had kids first, and she said, when I lie in bed at night, I don't think of mistakes I made or mistakes they made. I just think they're all alive, they're healthy, they're tucked in bed, and just sort of focusing on the moment, not about what maybe she did wrong as a mom, not focusing on tomorrow, what was going to happen, just
having gratitude for that.
Just there in the moment.
Yeah.
And it was a great thing that she taught me, because you could literally drive yourself mad thinking of everything you did wrong the day and then worrying about everything you might do wrong the next day.
Totally.
Yeah. So I have a bunch of questions here, and we're going to try something new on Joy of the Hang. Because Joy of the Hang is all about hanging out with your girlfriends,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
guy friends, or whoever happens to be with us, and getting to know one another. And so we're just meeting you. So let's ask you some fun questions. So have you had any funny or unexpected moments along your journey?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. So when people say I'm funny, I joke. I'm not funny. It's like I'm unintentionally funny. I like mispronounce words, or I say something silly that I don't think is funny, and then everyone's laughing at me, and I'm okay.
You're like, whoops.
But I like to say I'm pretty lighthearted, so if you can laugh at me, at least I'll laugh along. Who cares?
So has anyone farted in yoga class?
I was going to...
I mean,
I have
that would be kind of
always
funny,
wanted
right?
to ask a yoga instructor this, because they make jokes about it, but there is
quiet,
not
you're
a
sitting
class
in child's
I do
pose.
in yoga that there's not a small part of me that is worried that I could potentially fart in class.
I mean, that'd be funny.
Yeah, everyone farts, so I don't know.
It hasn't stopped the
It
class.
hasn't stopped the class. It hasn't stopped the class. I mean, that would be interesting, but I feel like normally I smell it more than I hear it. If that makes sense.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. If you could describe your mindfulness journey in one word, what would it be and why?
So the first word that came to mind is surrender.
I like that.
And it's this idea of learning, before my mindfulness journey, it was all about control and how can I control and stack the deck in my favor. And now I like to just surrender to what is the universe guiding me towards, and trust that, I'm just one small piece of a bigger picture, and I get to play my role.
I like that. Surrender. I love that word. Surrender.
Yeah.
I try to control everything, so surrendering is very important.
I think most of us do try
I
and
try
control
to
everything.
control, and I need to.
Because you're convinced if you don't have control, everything's going to fall apart.
Yeah, but I found the opposite. When you try to control, you limit what the benefits you can get, right? Because you're controlling towards an outcome that you know. When you release control, gifts can come from anywhere.
Could be even better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Never
and they
imagined. I love that.
they often come in surprising ways and in larger ways than you ever thought. I mean, my whole journey of coming to a place where I'm a coach and yogi, if you would have asked me 5 years ago when I left my job, I would have been like, what are you talking about? No way.
Yeah.
But it was through this process of just surrendering that led me here, and I'm so grateful for it.
Same with us starting this podcast. I surrendered and let Lauren join me.
Sharon.
And look at what gifts it brought me, though.
Right?
That's the
so
point,
many gifts.
right?
The gift that keeps
That keeps on
giving,
giving.
and giving and giving.
Oh, gosh. What's the weirdest or most unconventional mindfulness practice that actually works?
That's a good one, Sharon.
Yeah.
So one that I don't think people know a lot about is giving somebody a hug. So if you hug somebody for about 20 seconds, your heart rates sync up, and it's a natural stress reliever. Ooh. And if you cannot, if there's nobody around for you to
that's
hug.
long. 20 seconds is... 1 Mississippi. No, but that's a long time.
I thought it was 6, so it's 20. It's 6 seconds for a kiss, I've heard.
6 seconds, I think, for connection of a kiss, yeah.
And 20 for a hug. And
20 is when the heart rate will actually, your heart rates will co-regulate. Oh. You can do it for less, but if you can hold it for a little longer, you'll notice more effects. And then I say, if you don't have anyone around, you can hug yourself. There's a lot of ideas of physical touch you can self-soothe.
I love that. The next one, how do you handle stress when you're stuck in traffic or in a long grocery line? or I should ask, what stresses you out and how do you handle it?
So, those things don't typically stress me out unless, I'm in a rush. And if I'm in a rush, I often question to myself, why are you rushing? Like, if I'm running late, okay, I'm running late. It used to really stress me out to be late, and I try my best not to be, but okay, you're running late. You don't need, adding stress and adding those thoughts on top of being late isn't going to change the fact that you're going to show up 10 minutes late. Yeah. So show up 10 minutes late. What really stresses me out these days, it's just that I don't know if it's stress as much as that my mind just loves to be in control. So it loves to think and it loves to, ponder things and replay things and project what the future will be like. And so I have to remind myself, like, that's not reality. Yeah. This is reality. Put my 2 feet on the floor, take a deep breath, and come back to what I know. So sometimes I'll just say things like, this is what I know in this present moment. Sometimes I just breathe, or I love to go out to Bayfront Park and sit down on the grass, take my shoes off and just ground and remind myself that, we do live in paradise. Like we live where everyone vacations and just enjoy it.
Grounding is important though. That's an important tool.
I love grounding. Yeah.
That's an important one. What's your favorite quick fix for instant relaxation? Like, for example, I have 60 seconds. What do I do?
So the number one way to release stress in your body, like I said, stress is a body response. It can be created by the mind, is movement. So my favorite is a 60-second dance party. Put on your favorite, song, dance it out, and
all right, what's your go-to song? What are we dancing to?
Oh my gosh, I don't.
Do you have a go-to? Dancing Queen by ABBA.
This is the hard part about being a yogi is I'm constantly needing new songs, so I never get attached to any.
Come on, how about Pink Pony Club
that's a great.
Or HOTTOGO.
Chappell Roan.
Yeah, I love her.
I love Sabrina Carpenter too.
I love Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah, so maybe Juno because that's such a fun song.
What would be your
I
song?
like that espresso song.
Yeah, espresso's good.
I don't know what my song would be, Sharon, but one thing I could care less about, and I find myself doing it all the time, is I will just be standing there dancing. I do it when I'm in line at the grocery store. I do it like if I'm waiting for anything, I'm watching, a sporting event.
Dancing to what? The song in your head?
And just sort of moving, just sort of like, I might be even humming and swaying back and forth. So it's kind of funny. I've always wondered why I do it. Maybe it's something instinctually I do to put myself in a good mood, or because it makes me happy just to
dancing makes you happy.
Bop around.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. This one, let's see if you can do this one. What's a mindfulness myth you wish people would stop believing?
That meditation is the answer.
Okay.
I meditate now, but for the longest time when I was at work, people would be like, well, you're stressed. Why don't you just meditate? And I tell people, like, meditation for an overthinker is not really the best option because all I'm doing is sitting there and then thinking, I have to do this. I have to talk to Kate about this. I have to, and I had no concept of shutting off the thoughts. So that's, one of the big reasons why I do the daily reset is breath with movement, breath work, like creative drawing. Like there's all these different ways you can actually relax that is not meditation. Because for many people, meditation is not going to be the first way to release stress.
Yeah, I find it hard to meditate. It's hard for me to sit still.
I don't just find it hard. I find it literally impossible to meditate.
Have you tried? Like for a short period of time? Have you done any guided meditations or anything?
No, I have not. Well, I mean, in I guess a class,
there'll be there are classes
where they
teach you.
talk about, quieting your mind. It's just, I do not seem to have the ability to stop the thoughts.
Well, it's like you said, though, it's a practice. And
Yeah.
definitely, I have a hard time with it too, but it does take, you have to practice it. And you have to start, I think you have to start out in small increments and then build. Is that correct? Would you agree?
Okay, so I'm going to try like 3 seconds.
Let's do it right now.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You agree? It's
I would
like
agree. It's a
stepping.
practice. I started with guided meditation for a very long time before I started doing, now I self-guide.
Yeah, it's not easy. There are apps and stuff that can help you too now. Have you ever had a mindfulness or yoga fail? For example, like falling asleep during medication or yoga pose gone wrong. I've had plenty of yoga poses gone wrong myself. Like, what's the one where you're standing on one foot and you've got your arms out? What's that called?
So
Do you know
like
what
an arrow?
like
half moon?
maybe half moon, where you have to bend over and like touch your,
half moon. Most
that
likely.
one I've definitely fallen on my face before.
I don't. Okay, so I fell once, but it wasn't in class. It was like in a virtual class, and it was really funny. It was just a forward fold, and I like fell over my head. I like folded too much, and I like dented my glasses, so it was just kind of hilarious. But I was a figure skater growing up, so all the balancing poses,
You're good.
I'm good. I've never had an issue. I have fallen asleep in yoga class before, not when I'm teaching, obviously, but I've gone to class before and done, like 5 minutes of breath work. And she's like, you can lie down if you want. And I lied down and I woke up and it was pretty much over. And I was like, well, okay.
Oh, wow.
Guess I needed sleep more than I needed yoga.
That's funny.
I could see that happening because at the end of class, when I'm at the yoga shack, when they're talking about things and you're lying there, I have gotten, I don't know if I've fallen asleep, but pretty close to it. I'm very relaxed.
Yeah, I've had to wake students up before.
Yeah.
That's funny. I love how they end the classes too with usually a mantra or something beautiful to start your day. And
The light in me sees the light in you.
I love that though. It always like sets your intention for the day, right? And sets your mind in a good place. What's your favorite book, app, or tool for stress relief?
Okay. So app, for meditation, I liked Insight Timer. That's what I go to, and there's lots of free meditations on there. Book, there's so many. I'll go with the one I'm reading right now. So I'm reading Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza.
I love Joe Dispenza.
I love him. And
yes, I love
my coaching methodology is so similar to how his methodology. And so what I've really loved about his book is that it gives me all the neuroscience behind why, replacing the thought leads to the emotion, leads to the action. Because I just learned this as a methodology of how to coach and how to, break through energy. And he kind of says, okay, well, it's this prefrontal cortex, or it's this, you need to get out of a certain brain wave. And it's so fascinating to me to learn the science behind it. The other one, which is not really about stress, but about spirituality, I love Michael Singer. Anytime there's something big, stressful happening in my life where I'm like, oh gosh, this feels almost overwhelming, I turn him on because he reminds me that we're on a rock floating in the universe, and we're lucky that we just happen to live here and that gravity happens to hold us in place. And, he really puts life in perspective for me. So I love his work.
He literally brings you back to earth.
Yeah, he does.
Literally. Yeah, I like that.
That was profound, Sharon.
I know, right? Dun-dun-dun. I know, I don't know. Was that good? Well, all right, we're moving on. Okay, some creative and fun questions. Imagine that you're designing a stress-free island.
Ooh.
What's on it? It's not Love Island, apparently, because there's a lot of drama on Love Island. But our stress-free island has what?
It has a beach and a pool, and it has a yoga deck, and it has surfing, and it has, teachers available for you to teach yoga, to teach meditation, to, coach you. It has good food, because what is life without good food? What else?
Sounds almost like Bali and like Eat, Pray, Love. Yeah.
Yeah.
all the scenes from there.
Yeah.
Which
Massage. We need massage.
Massage, yeah.
Massage on our stress.
Massage, acupuncture. You need all of the, any alternative health. Like, we'll get a nutritionist out there because gut health is brain health. Like, all of that.
Yeah. I think we should leave our electronics off the island, right? No cell phones allowed on our stress-free island. If you could invent a mindfulness gadget, what would it do?
So my philosophy is that stress is largely caused by yourself and it's caused by your thoughts. So my mindfulness gadget would be all about helping you to recognize and examine your thoughts, particularly the subconscious thoughts that are hard for us to pick up on our own, and then helping you to release those subconscious thoughts to create and replace with new higher energy thoughts.
I love that. I wish we could create something like that. I need that.
We can work on it.
Right?
I have
Wouldn't that be
the poor
amazing?
man's version of that, Sharon. I've just started, like, when I get up and I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, I try and, say a couple positive things about myself. That's my poor man's version of doing that, just hoping that somehow that will replace the negative things I say to myself.
Do you do that every day?
Every day.
That's great.
I kind of laugh, as I'm saying it, and then do something dorky and then, like, make a funny face. And
I did have Post-it notes on my mirror that would be the same, like, you are strong, you are smart, or what. And so in the morning when I would get up, I would see the Post-it notes.
I mean, I seriously think it's important. I think it works. It's like the simplest things can really help. I mean, it's like they say to you, if you're in a bad mood, you're unhappy, force yourself to smile. And literally just forcing yourself to sit in the car and smile actually does help. And it's such a small, weird, simple thing to do.
No, but I found even like what you guys said earlier, like just putting on a song you like can totally shift your mindset.
Right.
Well, one of my favorite tools, speaking of speaking kind to yourself, that I did and I found for myself without, having a coach or other help that really transformed my mindset is what I call a judgment journal. And so at the end of every day, I would write down every judgment I had of myself or I had of somebody else. And then right next to it, I said, what's a more loving, kind way to say it? And so I would take that judgment and kind of turn it around. And what I found, I did it every day for 6 months. And what I found is that over time, I started naturally turning those judgments around in my head in the moment. And it really is what helped me to heal my inner critic on a real level.
You were rewiring your brain.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yep, that's great.
I like that.
It's one, because you don't realize how much you judge. So it's really interesting to start to bring awareness to how much you judge. And then two, by saying what's a more loving, kind way, you don't have to say, I'm brave, I'm strong. It's just, well, it's okay you didn't do this today. Like, you were busy with something else. It's helping you to, the brain doesn't respond when we go to extremes. You need to have it always be believable. And that's what's really key in transitioning and reframing.
I like writing it down, and I think we know right away when we do it, because I saw a picture the other day of someone had posted, and her boobs were just out there, big fake breasts. And I've had my breasts redone now twice, and I have implants. And I thought to myself, after I thought it, I'm looking at this picture, God, her boobs look so like ridiculously big. And then I actually thought to myself, why do I even say that? Like, why do I care? And then I have this whole conversation with myself about, and I was disappointed in myself. Like, why do I guess some things are natural. You're always going to have opinions, on something, but why does I would be so happy if I could, never do that, never even think it.
Yeah. And you think about it, like, we're all energy, and judgments are going to be a lower level of energy, a lower vibration. And so judgment, gossip, things like that, they can be fun in the moment, but they're actually taking energy away from you and what you can attract. And so when you reframe to a more loving, kind way, whether it's to yourself or to somebody else, you're naturally raising your energy levels and therefore allowing higher energy to come into your orbit.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I believe in that too. What's the strangest place you've ever meditated or done yoga?
The strangest place? Well, I lived in Vietnam for about 2 or 3 months, and I did yoga down the street. It was mostly in Vietnamese. They said like 3 words in English. But it was a great experience. They started to know me. I was the only tall white person there. And yeah, they had like 3 levels of yoga. It cost $1 to attend, which I was like, this is great. I've got yoga down the street. It's $1. I went like 3 times a day. And yeah, it was just strange because I didn't understand a lick of what they were saying ever. Yeah. I never picked up on it. But it was great to be in the energy.
I would say I had a similar experience. We were in Italy, same kind of thing. And we were traveling for business, my husband's company anyway. We were there, so myself and one of the other spouses went to a yoga class, and it was the same thing. We didn't know, neither one of us knew any Italian at all, and we're in this class, and it turns out it was, again, a pretty advanced class. I am a beginner, and she and I are laughing like crazy because all we can do is watch what's happening and try to get in the same poses as the people around us because we had no idea. And the instructor was so good. She got into these poses, and my girlfriend and I were looking at each other like, yeah, we'll just be down here and laying down here in child's pose. We'll be okay, you know?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Vietnamese are so flexible. I was like, no, I cannot.
That might actually work for me, though, because I'm way more visual than I am at listening. So, like, for example, if I'm in a class and it doesn't matter what the instructor says, if the person in front of me whom I might be watching does the wrong move, I do the wrong move.
Yeah.
So I sort of tune out the words. I just watch.
Yeah. But I mean, my point is she and I were so, I wouldn't say the word stupid, but naive, I guess. We're like, we didn't even think, it didn't even cross our minds that it wouldn't be in English.
Right.
And here we are in Italy, like, why would it be? You know? Like, yeah. Anyway. So, again, not a strange place, but...
Not a strange place, but it's quite an experience.
Yeah, that's funny. What's one mindful habit you think everyone should try at least once?
Breath work. The only 2 professions that teach breath work is yoga and the Navy SEALs. I think if it's good enough for the Navy SEALs, it's good enough for everyone.
Is that when you say breath work, is it them like learning how to hold their breath underwater?
It's both. It's actually learning how to...
Lowering their heart rate and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Breath work is one of the best ways to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. You don't need anything around you. It's just simply, how do I slow my breath? How do I control my breath? And through controlling your breath, you lower your heart rate, you redistribute the heat in your body. You know, when you're under stress, all your blood goes to your central organs. So you start to redistribute your blood out to your extremities. And for Navy SEALs who are under a lot of stress and can be put in stressful situations, they learn breathing techniques to help them to calm their bodies.
That is so cool.
So how does a corporate yogi help companies? You call yourself a corporate yogi, correct?
Yeah, I call myself the corporate yogi. I like to bring in the mix of coaching and yoga into anything that I do. And there's so much, like I said, yoga is a way of life. Things like surrender, contentment, self-study, they're all philosophies of yoga that I bring into the corporate world of saying, how can you listen more? How can you fail faster? And recognize that failure is a part of your success. So I work one-on-one with clients a lot of times in directly healing their stress. And what's amazing is that I get hired because they say, I want to learn how to be present. I miss my family. You know, I'm just can't leave. I leave the office, but the office doesn't leave me. And within 6 months, every single one of my clients has either gotten a raise, a bonus, or a promotion. And it's, you know, a testament to the fact that when you start to raise your own energy and start to prioritize yourself, everyone else sees you in a new light. And then with my corporate work, I really work on what is stress in teams and how does stress impact you as a leader. You know, a lot of times leaders think, oh, I tell you take the day off, or I tell you don't look at your Slack, but then they're answering Slacks at 9 p.m. and it's a monkey see, monkey do. Like, stress is an energy just like anything else. It's seen, felt, and heard way more than you think. And so starting to help people understand, hey, where is stress impacting my team, and how can I alleviate that stress both within myself and within my broader team so that we can come to a higher performance and collaboration.
I totally agree with that, how it affects the team, because just to, oversimplify it as a comparison, when someone hosts a party at their house, a dinner party, any type of party, if the host is all stressed out and wigged out and running around, it is not fun to be at that party. Mm-hmm. But I have to say, I am actually shocked in 2025 that every corporation doesn't have someone like you employed. I don't know if either of you have ever watched the show Billions on TV, but they have a woman, who her role at the company is to help everybody perform better by, working on their, inner dialogue or any, issues they're having. It's shocking to me that every company doesn't have someone hired in that role.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of considered ancillary. Also, coaching can be considered only for executives when it's actually much more effective in like the director VP part of groups, because executives, once you're in the C-suite, of course it's going to be helpful and you're setting the strategic vision, but who's touching the most people are your director VP levels. And so it's getting to that level where you can have like a higher level of benefit even for companies, but that when you get to that level, it's more people, it's more money, and it's that cost benefit analysis. But I think there's something like well-being, employee well-being costs, I think it's 1.1 trillion per year, and that's just in absenteeism and healthcare costs. So that's only what they can calculate. And to me, that's a really big expense. And so if we could start to heal the well-being on teams, you've got that direct expense that you can start to track, but then you also have things like productivity, creativity, innovation that are a little bit harder to track, but we know are prevalent in high-performing teams that feel supported and, feel supported in the job.
I think we're going to see it. I don't know how far down the road we are, but I think you're going to
I think we're moving into that practice. So I think a lot of companies now are adding mindfulness practices into their daily routine and allowing for more breaks and things. So I think that's becoming, I think some of the bigger companies get it.
They understand it and they use it as a perk, but they don't use it as a way of actually healing their employees. So they'll say, here's a Calm app,
Oh, okay.
Here's a Calm app subscription. Here's once a month we'll bring Calm on and they'll give you a 1-hour lecture on how to set boundaries. But when I work with my clients, it's not that they don't know what boundaries they want to set. It's that they are afraid to set them. And it's not even because of their direct boss. It's because of things like, am I worthy to set them? What happens if I don't answer this email? Am I going to all of a sudden get in trouble? So again, it comes back down to what thoughts are they having that are causing them stress, but also causing them to not take the rest that they need because they're so anxious of, if I mess up or if I miss something, that's going to define my whole career, which, when you're outside of the box and you take a step back, you go, how could that be possible? That one thing could define your whole career. But, when you're in it and every moment is so important, I can understand that it feels like everything is high stakes, and that makes it really hard for people to walk away. So on the flip side, that's really good for companies because they get workers that are just constantly working, right? They get workers that are always responsive, that are always pushing the limits. And so it's a little bit of this catch-22 of they see some of the visible benefits because it's visible productivity. They see that their employees are online. They see that their employees are working late and doing good things for them. And so they say, okay, we want to keep that. What we need to change the dial on is that it's not visible productivity, it's strategic productivity. So answering Slacks, answering emails, being on meetings, that's all visible productivity. And that's kind of like thinking about the Ford, supply line, and you could visibly see the progress. But strategic progress is when you think about how are you moving a product forward? How are you going to market with this product? Those things take more time and space and honestly rest. If you look at some of the most, profound people like Thomas Edison, people like Winston Churchill, Charles Darwin, they all took naps in the middle of the day. They all strategically scheduled rest in their day because it was like after 6 hours of work, most scientists are actually counterproductive. But yet corporate America has us working 12. So it's just this really interesting way of starting to educate people on hours don't equal productivity.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And my husband, who works in the sports industry, they do these lectures at different events he goes to. And this woman came in and she had everyone sitting there answer the question. She said, okay, I want you all just to shout out where you are when you feel like that you are the most productive, coming up with a great idea, solving some big problem at work. And, people yelled out, on vacation, in the shower, like having a glass of wine at my favorite restaurant. And she said, after all 300 people yelled out things, she said, I didn't hear one person say sitting at my desk in the office. Just food for thought that you can be extremely productive when you're in a calm, soothing environment.
And when you're not expected to be on 24/7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's something COVID taught us too, with all the remote working, right? So, yeah, interesting. Now, funny, it's going to come off funny and it's a complete tangent, but do you think yoga helps with a person's sex life? Do you think it helps to improve? I don't mean in the flexibility. I just mean in the relaxing, and I didn't mean it as a funny thing. I'm serious. I'm wondering if just like exercise and working out helps to release endorphins and whatnot, do you think yoga can help? Yeah, in the same way.
In the same ways, yeah. I mean,
okay.
And the idea of, to your point of you can release stress. Yoga teaches you how to be more present. Isn't sex better when you're present?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So another reason to incorporate a daily yoga practice. So if people wanted to get in touch with you and wanted to learn more about what you do, how would they do that?
Probably the best way is on my Instagram. It's Christina, Christina, V as in Victor, Ordonez, O-R-D as in David, O-N-E-Z.
And you are looking for people to help with what? Yoga, corporate?
Yeah, I'm happy to support people on yoga. I do a lot of, and if you're stressed out, reach out to me. I'm so happy to help you release your stress. And then any corporates that are looking to collaborate on how to create higher performing teams.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So you definitely provide a service that's needed.
Oh, thank you.
I think. So yeah, if anybody here in Sarasota is struggling with stress and needs a little help with that, please give Christina a call or send her a DM on IG.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
You can probably do virtual too, though, can't you?
Yeah, most of my clients
so
are
anywhere.
virtual.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of my clients are virtual.
So if you're in Europe, you're in Hawaii,
good
California.
point. Yes, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what advice would you give your younger self? We always end every episode with a little bit of advice.
What advice I give my younger self is to know your worth, to know what strengths you have, and to really own and honor those and love those, and not just scream them to the mountaintops to all other people, but really incorporate and love them within yourself and trust that those strengths are what are going to see you through.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too. Well, thank you very much for being with us today, Christina.
You.
It was so great to meet you. And Lauren, to you I say, peace out,
Peace out, Girl
girlfriends.
Scout.